Okay, well, good evening, everybody. I'm so happy that you're here. Welcome to the call, and thank you for those that are going to watch the recording. I always appreciate it when you watch that back. I don't want to waste a lot of time because I really want you to hear from our guest tonight, but I have to share something from you because I'm really just energized from what happened today. So a lot of you know that I work part-time with my church, and I go in on Tuesday mornings, and I was blessed enough to be able to be a part of a conference today, and then it's tomorrow morning. It's called the Exponential Conference. And the speaker that we heard from today, they talked about the 5 levels of church growth. And it's 1 through 5, and 1 being a declining church, 2 being a church that is growing, not a ton, but they're growing little by little. 3 is a church that has kind of plateaued, where they've gotten a good amount of growth and now they're kind of plateaued, kind of at a happy point. A 4 level 4 is where they're now planting new churches. And then the level 5 is multiplication, where the churches that they've planted are equipped enough to plant other churches on their own without the help of the church that planted them. And it's 80% of the churches in America that fall in the 1 and 2. The declining or the adding. It's 16% that fall in the plateauing, and then it's 4% that fall in the level 4 where they're planting. 0% fall in that multiplication level 5 category. And that's what they're there for, is to equip people to truly multiply and build disciples. And I could not help but to think of the parallel between what I heard today and what we do in LifeVantage, right? You think of the people that say yes and get in, and then fear takes them over, and then they slowly lose momentum, like that level 1. Or that level 2 where they're adding, and they're adding kind of consistently, but maybe not having those seasons of real intensity to then take it off the break and build a team. Or that level 3 where we get to a great rank and then we kind of get into management mode and we plateau. But wanting to get to that level 5, right, where we're building leaders and we're equipping them so well with all the right information that they have everything they need to know to then go build their team. And they know you're there to love them, but they essentially don't even need you because they're so well equipped because you trained them so well. Isn't that awesome? Like, I just love that parallel, and I think we should just all continue to strive for that and not always get so caught up in the me, but the we, the people that are still waiting for you, wanting you to build that big team so that they can learn from you and go and grow and give in a big way. So I had to share that with you. Okay, so I am so excited. We had Jenny Crane on last week, and now we get Sam Allen this week. And Sam is someone, again, I wouldn't have met Sam without LifeVantage. Same with Jenny. Sam is on Jenny Crane's team. And Sam, I didn't get a bio from you, but I want to hear more about your story. What I know of Sam, though, is that she's always so positive and walks with such beauty and confidence and just always so full of joy. Always so full of joy. And I was blessed to be on their team call last night. And as a leader, I didn't want to get off. They told me I could, and I stayed on because I wanted to learn from what I heard them saying and the way that they were leading. And you just do it in such a beautiful way, Sam. And I know that you and Jenny too, it's very strong in your heart to just gather people in a beautiful way. And I know you have a very godly team as well, which is what we do also. And that's why we're here. So Sam, I'm so grateful you said yes tonight. And I just want to start by you just simply telling us more about who you are, what you did before LifeVantage, and how you were introduced to it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Tanya. Gosh, that was so sweet. And I feel really honored. It's kind of surreal, actually, because for so many years, my husband and I just hit our 6th year in this. And so for so many years when we were just youngings in this, we would see you and hear you on Carrie Dickey's calls and things like that. And we didn't know each other yet, but you were always one of our mentors without you even knowing you were one of our mentors. So it's such a surreal and moment and an honor to be asked to be on your call now. So thank you. Thank you. And I'm so happy to be here. It's good to see everybody here on the team. So I'm Sam Allen. My husband and I, we met at the Naval Academy, where we both attended and graduated in Annapolis in 2009. And when you graduate from the Naval Academy, you commission into either the Marine Corps or the Navy. And my husband went into the Navy. He became a pilot, helicopter pilot, and I commissioned into the Marine Corps. And I was an active duty Marine Corps officer for 5 years. And unfortunately, we weren't able to be stationed together. So for the first 4 years of our marriage, we lived in separate states. We never lived less than 3 or 4 hours apart from each other for the first 4 years of our marriage. So we had our oldest daughter along the way. For about 2 years while I was in the Marine Corps, I was kind of like a single active duty mom. And that is actually when LifeVantage was introduced to me, because a friend of mine, fellow Marine officer who I went through some basic training with, she was out in California, I was in North Carolina, and we were friends. We were really good friends when we were going through basic training, but really hadn't talked a whole lot since. And so it had been a couple years. And she called me, and, like back when we were all sharing exactly, like, you call somebody, you show them the ABC and you see if they're interested. That's what she did. She said, I always knew that you were somebody who wanted to be a mom when you were out of the Marine Corps, which is true. And she's like, and I have found a way that I can be a mom and do something from home. And I thought you might want to take a look. And I was like, absolutely. What she didn't know is that Ray and I were already starting to think of ways that we could basically become entrepreneurs of some sort. I mean, I truly believed, and I mean, someone might have thought I was naive back then thinking this, but now I think I was just like attracting it, was that I really believed that when our commitment to the military was up, that my husband and I would be full-time parents. Like, I never thought that my husband would have to work a job before I even knew about LifeVantage. Like, I just knew, I literally thought I would invent something. Like, we would come up with something, we would invent something. I'd write a killer book, like whatever, right? We would find some way to like earn a living from home so we could be home together, because I think by being apart so much early in our marriage, it just gave us like that big dose of perspective that you don't get sometimes for decades of your life, until you're kind of toward the end of your life and you realize, where did all our time go? We really love being together. I mean, I really married my husband because I wanted to be with him, not be away from him all the hours of the day and all the days of the week. So we just knew, we said, you know what, we're so honored to be a part of the military and doing what we're doing right now. But when we're done with that, we don't want to keep giving our time away to somebody else. We want to be together as a husband and wife, doing the things that we feel like we're called to do on a bigger purpose level, from God. And the big thing is instilling our values into our children. And we just firmly believe that you really need to be spending more of the time with your children if you want to be the one, imparting your values with them. And so, or more of that quality time. And so that was already conversations that Ray and I were already having. And then she calls me and shares this thing with me. She was very nervous to do so. She almost didn't do it. She told me later because she thought I would think it was dumb. I saw the ABC News report. It's funny, she actually called me, and I was sitting in my apartment. I had an apartment and my husband had an apartment in another state because we were still with active duty. My baby was in bed, so that was fine. And I was just sitting there waiting for her call, I guess. And she called me and had me like go to the website, and I had to do it on my phone. I didn't have my laptop set up or whatever. And so I get off the phone with her, I type in the thing and I start watching. And then I was doing it on a computer. And then my power went out, like randomly. I guess there was a storm going on. And I call her back and I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, my power went out in the middle of it. And being on this side of it, I'm now thinking she probably thought I was just giving her like the typical runaround, like, oh, I'm not interested, I'm making an excuse, my power went out, right? But it really did. And I said, but don't worry, I'll just hang up and I'll watch it on my phone and I'll call you right back, because I was so excited. So I know that's kind of maybe not pertinent to the story. I don't always tell that, but I just feel like that's a good little, tip in there, is that look for the people who are really like want to look at this, don't drag people to this information. Like, I wanted it and I was going to, go to my phone and check it out. So finished watching it. And then she quickly, like right after, I was like, this is so exciting. Like, she quickly connected me with Jenny. And then a day later, I talked to Carrie Dickey on the phone, and you know, I mean, the rest is definitely history. I was excited from the beginning. I was already in. I didn't sign up right there on the phone. I then went to a week and a half later. It just also happened to be that Carrie Dickey was flying out to Virginia, where I was living at the time, to do what back then was a premier school, which now is a LifeVantage Academy. And I brought my husband, Ray, and I said, listen, they said we had to go to this. I mean, they told us we had to go to it. Even though we had plans to be in Pennsylvania that day for a family party, I was like, Ray, I don't know what to tell you. Like, they told me we had to go. And so we went, like, we changed our plans. We didn't go up to Pennsylvania. We went to this place in Virginia to go to this meeting with Carrie Dickey. And of course, you know, you hear Carrie Dickey speak, and I was just so blown away. One of the things that I was blown away by, obviously the excitement of like the compensation and this product and like what you could do. It was the first time I was ever exposed to just like this whole new concept, and I loved it. And so did my husband. He was like, this is awesome. But I thought it was so amazing that people were getting up there and thanking God for this and like counting their blessings for this. I said, is this real? Like, I didn't know there was a professional world out there in America where you could still talk about God and how blessed you are and things like that. Like, to me, that stood out. I'm very big on culture, you know, being a Marine. I chose the Marine Corps for a reason. I value culture. I value integrity and character. And to me, that was a real clear sign that this was a culture I wanted to be a part of. And my husband agreed. We signed up actually on Carrie Dickey's laptop right after that. So that was that. And so it took us a little while, though, to figure out network marketing. Obviously, we were young in life. We were never done network marketing before. But we were committed. I would say I was committed from day one. Now, my husband left right after for a 10-month deployment. So in all fairness to him, he didn't get to go to an event right away. I went to that very first convention where I just said, you know what, I am in this for life. Like, it solidified for me that at that moment, a month after signing up, that I will never quit this. And I felt like I made that commitment to LifeVantage like I would commit to a marriage or any other, you know, lifetime contract. So I just knew I was going to figure it out eventually, even though our growth was very slow. It took us the whole first year to just be Pro 1. That was before you could buy a platinum pack and start rate at Pro 1. It took us a whole nother year to get to Pro 2 and Pro 3. It took us almost 4 years in the business just to be Pro 4. And then finally, we had some aha moments with understanding some things and leveraging social media that helped us to go to 5 and 6 just in the past year and a half. So yeah, that's really our story. And you know, our why is to bring Ray home full time. Being a pilot in the Navy, he has to commit a little bit longer than I did. I did 5 years active duty as a Marine, but he had to do 10 years. So he gets out this time next year. And our intention is for him to, you know, be able to walk away from that, not go job searching, not go get an MBA. Like, we are just doing this full time. And we're very blessed that we've been able to, you know, create a full-time income from home with this and have that ability now. So yeah, that's our story.
What a real story. And I know, like, every single person that I'm seeing on this call so appreciates hearing that story, right, guys, of her timeline. Pro 1 and 8, yes, that's awesome, Sam. Thank you for sharing that. And when you said that you were told you have to go to the premier school, that made me think of Carrie Williams and the way she told the Pose too. Take note of that. Like, the minute you're signing someone up, right, they're looking to you, they're saying yes to you, you're the leader. Tell them they have to go. Don't give them the choice. Look what it did for Sam. Look where she is today. Sam, the other thing too that I got from last night, the person that shared the ABC video with you and was your enroller, it doesn't sound like you guys were on the same kind of trajectory to begin with. So with your enroller, just tell us that story and how you found help.
So it's interesting because Tanya was on our team call last night. So she saw my enroller on there, Sarah, who literally just got back in the business, guys, in January, February. Like, she came to Charleston. She's never been to an event since 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I think, was the last time she ever went to any LifeVantage event whatsoever. She and her husband have been taking Protandim Nerf 2, but that's it. They haven't been taking any of the other products, not even Axio. Like they basically were out of the business, even though I would text her, you know, throughout this whole time and just be like, I'm so grateful for you. Just, I hope you know how grateful I am for you. You've literally changed our lives. They've kind of not even really known like what this is, but of course, you know, obviously every once in a while, if you see your back office and all of a sudden you've got Pro 6 volume under you, you realize there might be something going on. And I'm not saying Sarah came back into it just because, you know, like, oh, good, you know, she's got Pro 6 under her. She had to, there were things in her personal life with her husband that had to be worked out, and the timeline was not there for her to be doing this. They have 4 young kids. He's deployed a lot. He's also an active duty Marine. So anyway, my point is like everybody's got different timing in their life. So don't get down on people if like they're not ready right now. And she was my enroller, right? She wasn't under me. I felt for her because I wanted it so badly for her too, and I didn't want her to miss out. So anyway, when she first introduced this to me, she was so fired up and she was very like gung-ho and excited, and I'm grateful that she talked to me before she decided not to do it anymore. But it just, her situation was more like her husband was so unsupportive of it and just did not get it and didn't really want her to do it, that she just decided it wasn't worth it to her, you know, to have him like miserable about it, you know. And so I didn't really have much support from her. But Jenny, so I went up in my chain, which there's only 3 more people, right? Jenny, Carrie, and Stu. And so I worked very closely with Jenny. Fortunately, Jenny and I clicked very, very closely right away, even though she was in California and I was on the East Coast. So there's always that time difference. Back then, it was a little bit more difficult, obviously, because everything's on a phone. But I don't know. I just grabbed on, and I really took heed of what people said by attending events. So I networked with like everybody in LifeVantage very quickly. I wanted to. I don't understand why you have to convince anybody to go to events. I mean, there's nowhere I'd rather be than a LifeVantage event. I mean, truly. I try to tell people, and I think this is why we have good success in our team of getting people to events, is we encourage people to go to your first one. Just go to the first one. If you go and you think it's not worth the time or the money after that, then totally cool. But you should at least go to the first one to see the company that you're going to be out there representing. Like, do you really want to put your name behind something that you haven't fully checked out, that you haven't gone and seen who the CEO is, see who the leaders are, see what kind of culture you're representing? So that's kind of how we talk to people about going to events. But Tanya, was there more of a question about that, about how we initially got started?
Yeah, no, did you reach out to Jenny, or did Jenny kind of reach down to you?
Well, again, because she was so involved with the initial process, right? This is where like that whole third party comes into effect even once you're in the business, is that I met her square, you know, from day one. The first time I watched that ABC report, I met her on the phone and you know, we hit it off. So I felt like comfortable with her. You know, interestingly, she was also at the stars really aligned for our coming into this, because she also was at that same premier school, or, you know, LifeVantage Academy in Virginia that I signed up at. So Carrie came out to do the event, but Jenny, who also lives in California, happened to be on the East Coast as well, doing like some work with like people who are on the East Coast. So I met her right away then too. So fortunately, we kind of formed that bond in a very unique way. So it wasn't like a thing where I had to go find who was above me. I would have, though. When I tell people like I committed to this no matter what, I was never going to just, you know, I wasn't going to say, well, if I don't have anybody that I know, you know, I'm just going to stop it. No, like I was literally going to do whatever it took to figure this out, because once I determined that LifeVantage is where I wanted to be and that it was real and true and good, I couldn't leave it, you know, ever, no matter what hardships come. So I would have found somebody even if I didn't, you know, have Jenny right away that close. So
that's awesome. The will was there. So Sam, last night I shared a little bit of my story, and I want you to know too, I didn't say this and I wish I would have. And I know I talked way too much last night, but anyway, you know, when I talked about like my husband and when he was gone, you were such an inspiration to me in that time, because I kept thinking about you, and you have 4 small children and he's deployed. And you had one small child when you said yes to LifeVantage. You've had 3 along the way. So tell us, I mean, how do you maintain your sanity? How do you continue to do LifeVantage and do your calls? And like, balance comes in the moments, right? We can't truly have a balanced life, but how do you get it done when you're a single parent and you have 4 small children?
Well, again, I think when you're so committed to something, you figure it out. You just do it. You figure out a way. I am not an organized person at all. And it always shocks people when I say that. They're like, really? I thought you were so organized. I'm like, I must hide it really well. I do things very chaotically. Like if I could focus myself even like a little bit more, I'd be firing on all cylinders, but I just kind of like do things. I just kind of do it all. So I don't know. I think the excitement of this just like allows me to keep like going, and I it's so natural to me to just like talk about it or share it with people on Facebook or have conversations. I think definitely I have to say, if we hadn't figured out the whole social media deal and understanding how to systematize social media, I think it would have been very difficult for me to continue this business with 4 kids, a newborn, and a husband who's now deployed for 6 months. Like realistically, I don't think I could be in home meetings, night after night, or, I think my business probably would have either stopped in its tracks or might have even gone back if I had to rely on that solely. I'm not saying don't do those things. If you can do those things and your team can do those things, that's great. I just think that the beauty of social media for us has been that it's that constant pipeline. I mean, I can be, nursing the baby late at night at midnight or something, and I can be responding to people's messages. It's 24/7, when you're out in the real world, you only have so many times that you can interact with people. And then it's like coordinating times that you can get on a phone and then coordinating a third party with somebody. To me, that was so difficult. The first like couple of years doing that and trying to coordinate all these different things. When we honed in on social media and could really understand how to communicate and how to kind of help people who are interested in the information, get the information in one kind of area, like with our Facebook groups and stuff, it just helped the process along a little bit, But how do I keep my sanity? I mean, obviously the Vitality Stack and Axio. I mean, it's like, I don't know how people do other network marketing businesses without like these products, because you do have to be a little bit crazy and working around the clock and stuff. And I don't know how you would do it without these products, but yeah, I don't know. I feed off the energy. I just feel like when you know what you're doing is what you want to be doing, and my why. I feel like my why is very strong. I think that's hard for people to hone in on sometimes because maybe they don't have as dramatic of a scenario. I mean, for me, it's like it's a very finite time, right? Like my husband has 1 more year left in the Navy, and yes, he could stay in longer if he wanted to, but we don't want that because that means that we have to keep being away from each other, keep going through deployments, keep doing this stuff that we don't want to do anymore. So for me, it's like, okay, we either have his income replaced or we're making enough where we don't have to have another income, or he's got to get a job. So it's very clear to me that, instead of at the end of the day, when I'm done putting the kids to bed and making dinner and cleaning up and everything, I might want to go sit and just like relax and like turn my brain off for a little bit. But instead I get on Facebook, I get back to all my messages, I go and I comment on people's posts, and I try to be a good, a supporter of other people. And that is just, I don't know, I feel like that's just really what I do. And when I'm out in the real world, quote unquote, I always just try to be authentically interested in people and try to always build those relationships and try to help people out when I can. It's I just think this is such a selfless business. So I don't think there's any way around it. It would be easier to not do some of those things, but I think when you really truly care about people and want to help them, you kind of have to, and you just figure it out.
So you mentioned too that, for you and Ray in the beginning, you've kind of felt like it was a slower progress because you were trying to figure out the business, figure out the industry and how network marketing worked. And then you had that aha moment. And so it sounds like that aha moment was utilizing network marketing and leveraging that, or social media and leveraging social media. And once you heard about that, I mean, tell me what that felt like, because I can imagine for a mom of 3 or 4 at the time, hearing of kind of an easier way to get it done for you, it probably wasn't like, I can really utilize my time more efficiently. What was that like? And then I got the DMO that you and Jenny use for your teams, and I am excited to share that with my team. But just tell me more about the aha moment and how you have utilized social media.
Yeah. So for one thing, you know, for the first 3 years, I would say of our 3.5 years, I guess it was 4. I guess really it was the first 4 years. We were doing everything what I call kind of like old school, right? And that's not to diminish anything with LifeVantage or the Proven Plan or anything. I love it. It's awesome. It's just I'm trying to differentiate between what we're doing now and what we did before. And so I'm like very obedient. So like when they told me you do the Proven Plan and this is what you do and you make the phone calls and you have to have a third party, I was like, okay, here we go, you know? And in the whole first year that I was in, you know, I made that huge list. I called people like that I had never talked to since high school and did the whole, you know, I know we haven't talked in a while, but I'm really excited to share something. And it, honestly, I mean, it worked a little bit. I had a few people join me, but they didn't stick. And what we realized was about, you know, it was because we earned an incentive trip to Cancun that we even had this aha moment, this revelation with the whole Facebook, because we talked to some people there that had already been figuring it out. Ray and I were just wondering, we were like, why are there some people that seem to be skyrocketing through all these ranks right now in LifeVantage? Like, what are they doing that, like, can't we do that? Like, what is it that they're doing right now? And so we kind of picked their brain and figured it out and then, you know, got some training on it. But what we realized was that it wasn't that the Proven Plan was flawed. It's not like those things didn't work. Those principles didn't work. The world took a very big shift on us in the past couple of years. And I'm going to tell you, it's only shifting faster and faster and faster every day. We went from, you know, when we first started this 6 years ago, people were still answering phone calls. They did. They would answer phone calls. I mean, almost everybody that we called, even if it was out of the blue, they would pick up the phone and be like, hey, is everything okay? Like, I haven't heard from you in a while. And so they would at least answer the phone. About maybe 3 years ago, people stopped answering the phone and they would only respond to a text message. What we realized in the past, in like 2 years ago, was that people aren't even necessarily responding to text messages anymore. And not just about LifeVantage, like just in general, people seem very busy. And this is going to be a little bit different from, you know, age group to age group. Like probably in the younger generations, it's going to be like nobody text messages anymore, right? They only communicate via social media. And I actually had this aha moment when I texted my sister, who's actually a little bit older than me. She's a couple of years older than me. She has 6 kids. She lives in Phoenix, Arizona. So we only, you know, talk on the phone or however. We don't see each other in person. She's also a LifeVantage distributor. But I texted her and she like didn't respond to me, you know, for a couple of days or whatever. And then I saw that she was on Facebook, like commenting, like I saw her like liking things on Facebook. So I said, oh, I'm going to send her a Facebook message. And she got right back to me on Facebook Messenger. And I'm like, man, that just goes to show. I'm like, my sister isn't avoiding me. She's not, like, she loves me. She wants to talk to me. She's just so busy and inundated with things. And when she has a minute to like, you know, to not do all the things that she's doing to take care of her 6 kids, she's going to Facebook, you know? And so I said, that's indicative to me of what's happening with the world. The world is doing that. Everybody, whether they think they're on Facebook or not, they mostly are. They're scrolling and they're finding things out on Facebook. So why not be a presence there? Why not share a positive message there? Why not add value to people there? They're not getting it from their TV, so be the person who can add value. You know, if at 8 o'clock at night you're sharing a Facebook Live with positive value, that's better than what they might be watching on TV or something that they're hearing at work. You know, everybody's living in such a negative world. We felt like if we could inject positivity into people's world and share things that are important, then that would be an attractive thing and that would be helpful to people. And then eventually they might also be interested in this solution that we have to offer. Yeah, that change, I mean, that was like, it was very obvious to us once we realized it. We're like, wow, like that's exactly what's happening. Like people, as much as we try to keep like shoving the square peg into the round hole, it's like, that's not the way the world's operating anymore. So we can keep demanding that they do it our way, where we call them and we just like make them come to our home, or we can just kind of go meet the people where they're at. And so we've just found it's just not only is it more convenient because you can kind of stay in your home and do the busy things that you need to do, but to us it's been incredibly more effective, and there's just more eyes on the information. I mean, you can only interact with so many people in a given day out in the real world, but on Facebook you've got potentially 1,000 people looking at you at one time, and at your info. So.
The last thing I'll ask, that was such good information. Thank you so much for that.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned this last night too, when you were kind of coaching one of your teammates along. When you started social media, did everything just progress right away for you, or did it take some time?
Okay, so that's a good question. And let me try to go through it now in retrospect. So the timeline is that that Cancun incentive trip that I say was like the aha moment, the epiphany, like the turning point for us. That was in December of 2016. 6 months before that, like in the spring of 2016, Ray and I happened to hear of Bob Heilig, who I'm sure many of you might know, or some of you may not. He's a very, prolific professional network marketer. And we started listening to his podcast, and something about him just kind of resonated with Ray and me, and particularly Ray. And Ray got the idea from him to start a Facebook group for your team, like a place to connect your team, right? And that was like a huge aha moment for us back then, because the only way you could ever communicate with your team that's across different states and all that, and sometimes even countries, is, when you come to the elite academies or, the monthly events, or back then we weren't doing Zoom, so you never saw people. So you would get on like the phone calls every Carrie Dickey's call, or you might have your own team call, but that was a little different. It still was hard to get people to go there. It was hard to pass information to people. So 6 months before that Cancun trip, we at least started a Facebook group with our distributors where we could just like communicate, say, hey, here's what's happening, here's what's coming up, blah, blah, blah. And at the same time, we also took Bob Heilig's advice to just start posting one time every day, every single day, post one thing and make it just like positive, a positive quote, a positive insight, like something you happen to be doing that day that was like fun or exciting, very basic, it was very generic. We didn't even think of it like at the time as doing anything for our business. We just thought, oh, okay, Bob said to do it, we'll do it, And so that's what we did. Every single day we would post like something like positive. And we started, like, people just started like, more and more people would like our stuff. They would engage with it. They would be like, wow, people would tell us in private messages, they just loved our positivity and like, thank you so much. And that was so helpful. It changed the course of my day. And we were like, man, that's so cool. Like who even knew that, you could have that kind of impact. And then when we got to Cancun, right, in December, after doing that for 6 months, then we talked with some people who were intentionally using Facebook and had a real system for how they were building and helping people to rank advance very quickly. And it was just honing in on the concept of, yes, posting. So like what you're sharing regularly, you being a person of value every single day on your personal profile, combined with having a way to educate people about your product and opportunity once they reach out and they're curious. So that was a big aha moment. We were like, wait a minute, you're telling me like you can just have this whole private Facebook group where you stash all the good stuff that we want people to see anyway? Like, what's our follow-up process? Normally after you would see the ABC report, then you would have to try to email people like, oh, now watch this and now watch this. And whoever knew if they watched it. People don't really love the experience of getting emails. They really love the experience of getting a notification on their Facebook. Like that's like a positive experience for people, just psychologically. But when people look at emails, they kind of think of it as like drudgery, like, oh, I got to go through this and I've got to weed through and see if this is junk or if this is real. So this was cool to think of a group on Facebook where we could just put all the stuff, all the good stuff, all like the doctor's videos, all like the personal stories from people, the studies, you know, like all those awesome PubMed studies. It's like, how awesome, right? And so that was a real big shift. And then the other thing was dripping in the curiosity into our posts. So not just sharing only generic positivity, lifestyle, things like that, but dripping every once in a while, just a little bit of like, you know, a story from somebody or an experience they had with our products without using the name of our products or our company. You know, there's many ways to hint at it, you know, like once I was activated, or once I started naturally, you know, reducing my oxidative stress, or once, you know, there's little ways that you can say what happened and not make major medical claims on your profile. And then you already have that traction. Like we already had, I think that was what gave us really quick success when we started honing in on this system with Facebook, is because 6 months before that, we're doing the one post a day. And that's a big tip, I think, because sometimes when we teach the daily method of operation, you know, we teach that if you're going to post, like the way that you should post is 1 to 2 posts on your personal profile every day. And we have a formula that you know, we've determined from other professional network marketers that generally about 8 of those posts throughout the week should be general, positive, like value added, sharing pictures of your cute dog, sharing what you're doing with your family, you know, like things like that are drawing your audience. Like, you know, people are commenting and liking and things like that. And then about 3 or 4 of those posts throughout the week should be dripping little curiosity about our products, or educating people in a curious way about like what we're doing. And there's a little bit of an art to that. That's something that you kind of have to learn. And I think it's good if you are open to constructive criticism and mentoring, because not everybody's very natural at that whole like marketing. You know, you can pound people with the info and say oxidative stress is awful and you're all going to die unless you take this thing. But that's not, people don't receive that well. So there is a little bit of like a learning with that too, like how to communicate what we have with people in a positive way that makes them receptive to wanting to come to you for the information. But again, the only way you're going to learn it is if you start doing it, you know? I mean, even if you're bad on Facebook, right? Like Carrie says, you're going to be bad before you're good and good before you're great. So same thing with Facebook. But I just highly recommend people learn it, because I just don't see us going back. I don't think we're going back to the old school way. I mean, there's now 2.4 billion people on Facebook. When we started this 2 years ago, there were only 1.9 billion. So that means there's a positive trend there, right? And I would just say, so as far as how quickly we had success, I think because we were building that audience, like just with very good positivity the 6 months before it, when we launched in and were dripping those curiosity posts starting in January of 2017, I'll share this just to share how effective we believe this is, not to like gloat about our numbers, but we had never, Ray and I had never in our lifetime of our business, so the first 4 years of our business, we were Pro 4, you know, hovering like right at Pro 4, maybe a little bit even below Pro 4 at that time. We had never in a given month, in a given calendar month, enrolled in our whole organization more than 6 people. Preferred customers, distributors, whatever. Never more than 6 in our whole organization. The first month that we implemented these specific things with Facebook, we enrolled 10 in our organization. Now they were mostly customers, right? This is mostly a customer like generating machine, and you're going to find your distributors, find those people along the way. The next month in February, so January it was 10, February we had 20 new enrollments. March we had 35 new enrollments, and we hit Pro 5. We had one other distributor on our team who did this with us, like joined us lockstep from January, and they started the posting 1 a day as well the 6 months before. So like they were doing basically the same thing. They went from distributor, they weren't even Pro 1 to Pro 3 in those first 3 months of doing this. Then every month thereafter, our enrollments grew. So it was 10, 20, 35, 45, 56, 72 by the summer. New enrollments in our organization. And our volume in our business, the amazing thing that we noticed for the first time ever was actual growth, residual growth. Like our auto ship volume in our organization has never, from the point that we've started Facebook, has never dipped. It grows every single month. And that's something we couldn't even comprehend. And if you're kind of in lower ranks, you might not even really understand what I'm talking about, because until you have an organization that has enough subscriptions month after month after month, and there's enough like growth, you might not see that yet. You don't have like that leverage that they talk about yet. But once you see it, it's incredible. It's an amazing thing that can happen. And I just believe that's the power of what social media can do, is it creates like this engine and this consumer pipeline. Because you constantly have people who are seeing your information and are interested and are reaching out, and you're educating, and then they're staying on their auto ships because they're getting educated even while they're taking the product, because they're in the groups and they're learning while they're taking it, and they're seeing other people's experiences. So it's just all mutually supporting this effort. And I just feel like our business is such a testament to it, even when it's like kind of slowed off a little bit, when our lives have gotten a little crazy, right? Because like I haven't been super strict on doing my daily method of operation these past, couple months since Ray's been gone and we just had the new baby. I'll admit that. And of course, your business is going to slow down, but it's never stopped and it's never declined. It always has gone just like even little tiny increments upwards. So yeah, that's what I would say about how that's gone, Tanya.
You're an amazing teacher, and it's obvious you treat this like a business with the way that you just gave us those numbers. And there's a lot to learn from that and how dialed in she is with those. So Sam, I didn't know the baby was behind you.
Yeah, she's photo bombing.
We'll wrap this up here pretty soon. So is there any final words you'd like to share with anybody or with everyone on?
I don't know. I feel like the new people are always who need the encouragement the most. And I think one of the biggest things that I am so big on that I hope nobody ever overlooks, whether you're doing Facebook, whether you're doing Instagram, whether you're doing, old school, knee to knee, whatever you're doing, is the personal growth and development. Like I tell people all the time, I'm like, look, none of this is going to work. You could have the greatest posts, you could have, be in all the networking groups out in town. None of it's going to work unless you are growing and you're an authentic person of value. And I think that one of the best ways to do that is to become a reader and learn things. I am so grateful for the personal development journey. Ray and I, we went to the Naval Academy. We went to like the #1 leadership institution, arguably in the world. And I've never learned leadership like I've learned here in LifeVantage, and going on this growth journey and understanding people and humans and just like understanding the way people's minds work. So become like, get excited about personal development. Don't think of it as a drudgery. Like if you're not somebody who likes to read a physical book, I know I do all my reading on audiobooks, because moving around as a mom, being busy, I always have something in that I'm learning. And I think when you're learning that much and growing, it oozes, it emanates, right? And so that's the best recommendation I could give, no matter what technique you're using, is to hone in on that personal growth and development.
I love it. Thank you so very much, Sam. I just appreciate you being here. You're amazing. Thank you so much for saying yes.
Thank you for having me.